When you move into a new neighborhood and your neighbors seem a little too friendly, you might think you're the star of a sitcom. But what if they aren't welcoming you at all? What if they're fattening you up? This next story is a fantastic tale of suburban terror involving cobwebs, cocktails, and a very bloody HOA. So fluff your feathers and clutch your garlic, because this horrifying Halloween tale is called Welcome to Bleeder's Hollow. Daniel and Marie Voss were exactly the kind of couple who would end up in a place like Evernight Hollow. They were in their early 30s, newly married, and sick of the city grind in Portland. Their apartment was noisy. Daniel's new software job went fully remote, and Marie, a freelance photographer, was ready for more space, more sky, and fewer sirens. When their real estate agent emailed about an 1890s Victorian in a storybook neighborhood, they were skeptical, but the photos were stunning. Wraparound porch, stained glass windows, overgrown ivy curling up antique columns. And best of all, the price was suspiciously low. They scheduled a showing. That afternoon, they drove 45 minutes into the hills and pulled into Evernight Hollow. The GPS clicked off as soon as they entered the neighborhood. Literally, the screen blinked, then went black. Marie frowned. That's weird. The neighborhood, by contrast, was perfect. Every house was a Gothic masterpiece. Iron railings, rose gardens, wrought iron fences, and tall trees that cast spiderweb shadows. The street was called Raven's Lane. And the home? It was everything the pictures promised. Even the mailbox was carved with little bats. The agent met them there, but barely said a word. She just handed them the keys and muttered, "Don't be late for Halloween," then got back in her car and drove off. Within hours of moving in, the doorbell rang. It was a woman in a long, velvet coat with deep auburn hair pulled into an old-fashioned bun. Her name was Cordelia. She introduced herself as the head of the block committee. She spoke slowly, with an old-world accent Marie couldn't place. Her smile was wide and perfect. "We're hosting our annual Halloween party this weekend," she said, handing over a thick, black invitation. "Costumes are encouraged. Midnight is traditional." Marie blinked. "That late?" Cordelia tilted her head. "The dead don't mind." The next day, the rest of the block showed up, one by one. A man in a trench coat with translucent skin brought wine. An elderly couple with hollow smiles gifted them a pie so dense it felt like a brick. One neighbor, a boy no older than 10, said, "You'll like it here." Then added, "They picked you special." Over the next few days, things got strange. Marie woke up to the sound of whispering, but when she looked out the window, the street was empty. Daniel noticed the clocks in the house kept resetting themselves, always to 12:01 a.m. Their cat, Pudding, refused to go near the staircase. She sat at the foot of the steps and hissed at nothing. Then came the meat. Raw steaks, organs. One day, a tongue, always wrapped in butcher paper, left on the porch with no note. They called the police. The police never came. Marie told Daniel, "This place feels wrong." But Daniel chalked it up to nerves and the spooky season. "It's an old neighborhood," he said. "Let's just go to the party, meet everyone, and settle in." Marie reluctantly agreed. The night of the party arrived, and Evernight Hollow transformed. Candles lined the street like runway lights. Fog machines puffed low across the lawns. A quartet played eerie classical music on a porch. Every house was glowing like a jack-o'-lantern. Daniel dressed as a werewolf, Marie as a flapper vampire. They stepped into Cordelia's house around 11:45 p.m. Inside, everything was crimson. The walls were draped in velvet. The chandeliers looked like antlers dipped in blood. The guests were dressed to the nines, but not like a typical party. Their clothes were ancient, authentic, and none of them blinked. A pale man with silver eyes handed them glasses of sangria. Marie took a sip. It was thick, metallic. She coughed. Daniel drank more. Tastes earthy. Cordelia appeared behind them. We harvest our own ingredients, she whispered, smiling wide. Farm to fame. At midnight exactly, the music stopped. Cordelia raised a goblet. To our newest family, she announced. Let the feast begin. Suddenly, the doors slammed shut. All the guests turned toward Daniel and Marie. Their eyes glowed. Their mouths opened, revealing fangs. Daniel grabbed Marie's hand and ran toward the door. It wouldn't budge. He slammed his shoulder into it. Nothing. A man with a cane and century-old tuxedo grabbed Daniel by the neck and flung him across the room like a rag doll. Marie screamed, but a cold hand covered her mouth. Shh, Cordelia said. You'll wake the dead. They awoke in their own bed. It was morning. The house was bright, quiet, normal. Daniel stumbled to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. 2 faint puncture marks on his neck. Marie stood behind him. What happened? They drove to the sheriff's office. The deputy there laughed. Sounds like one hell of a party. When they gave him the invitation, he raised an eyebrow. I don't see anything written on this. It was blank. Over the next month, Daniel deteriorated. He stopped going out during the day. His skin turned pale. He said the sun gave him migraines. Marie would catch him standing at the window in the middle of the night, just staring at the neighbors' houses. Then came the incident with the cat. Pudding went missing. Marie found Daniel in the basement, his mouth stained with red. She ran. Marie left Evernight Hallow and never returned. She sent letters. They were returned unopened. A year later, the Zillow listing for their home went live again. Charming Victorian on Ravens Lane. Motivated seller. Move in before Halloween and enjoy our warm neighborhood tradition. Cordelia still lives there. So does Daniel. And every October, the porch lights on Ravens Lane glow crimson once more. If someone invites you to a neighborhood Halloween bash and offers you homemade sangria, maybe skip the second glass. Or at least bring a steak. And I don't mean the meat kind. That was Welcome to Bleeder's Hollow, another clucking, terrifying tale from the Henhouse Files, where everything might look sunny side up until you realize you're just the main course. Stay safe. Stay spooky.